Hi, everyone. I'm Gold Derby News and Features Editor Ray Richmond, and I'm here today with Lily Rabe, the actress who portrays daughter Margaret in the HBO original film, The Great Lillian Hall. Um, Lily, I just watched your movie early this week, and it's powerful, beautifully done. Um, First thing I have to ask is what it's like to work alongside Jessica Lange and Kathy Bates. Oh my God.
Well, gosh, I've been so lucky to work with them before this film, and I had such a tremendous experience working with them previously, and it felt it just felt incredible to come back together for the telling of this particular story and to play these parts together. And something I'm always chasing as an actor is a kind of shorthand, and we already had it, so that was really lucky. But I would say I felt that it really deepened my relationship with both of them doing this movie.
Just briefly, the film stars Lang as a legendary Broadway star, fearfully facing the ticking clock of time while doggedly working to defy it. And you portray again Lillian's daughter, who grew up essentially ignored. You yourself are descended from showbiz royalty, Lily, of course. Your dad, David, is a Tony-winning playwright and screenwriter, and your mother was the great Jill Clayburgh. And An Unmarried Woman was a revelatory film, even for me as a young man. And she was so charismatic and such a talent. And
It
I
was.
had a I had a big crush on her.
Oh, well, good. I think that's
All,
appropriate.
all, all of which is true. But I have to ask, Lily, and forgive me if this is not appropriate, if you could relate in any way to Margaret in terms of growing up with absentee parents, or if that wasn't the case at all.
You know what? I had actually quite present, unusually present parents, I think. Particularly, my mother, she gave up so much. She turned down parts that you just wouldn't believe if I told you what they were.
Oh, can you tell me one?
Oh gosh, it feels they're really good, but I worry about saying it because then it
It's
seems
okay. It's
like,
okay. It's all
you
right.
know what I mean? But
Yeah, yeah.
really great ones. Like people won Oscars and made a lot of money, and one of them went on to be a big franchise. And um, but that was she had no regrets about it. Of course, it might have been better to choose to do them in the long run, but really she never regretted it because she just at that time we were little, she wanted to be home because we were sort of I came along, I think, kind of at the height of her fame, and a lot of things were coming towards her as they should have been, and she just was really focused on being home. So I don't relate in that way to her, but I did relate so much to her as a character because I think the movie is incredibly personal, and you know I've I've found in talking to people that it's it hits everyone so personally, whether they've experienced losing someone to something like dementia, or for people who have a kind of very intimate relationship with the theater, or I think everything that the theater represents right now, which is this very hot topic in our community, which is community and experiencing art together, and not
Rather than over Instagram.
that's right. And what that means to everyone. So I think in a way, even though it's a kind of it's a very detailed and small story, I think it's kind of massive in what it's tapping into. Um, Norma Rae was one of them. I'm just going to say it.
Thank you. Bless you for that,
Oh,
and bless your mother for having her priorities so
and
in
I
place.
well, you know what? I reap the benefits. But I will tell you, we have a funny saying now in me and my father, uh, where when I'm thinking about doing a job or not, we like to say, well, it's not Norma Rae.
Wow. Yeah,
It's
only
okay
Norma
if I
Rae.
pass. It's
Oh,
okay if
only
I pass. It's okay. It's not
wow.
Norma Rae. But maybe one day it will be, and then I won't pass. I won't pass. I like to follow in my mother's footsteps in almost every way except for that particular one.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, your role actually in Lillian Hall, Lily, is so well written. I mean, Margaret seems to be kind of the perfect blend of resentment and longing for her mother's attention. It's a really interesting, very, very moving combination.
Thank you. I also, you know, something I feel about her is she's not aware. She's not living she doesn't have self-pity. She's not aware of her situation, which I think, you know, that's sort of something that's how we survive. And so I think probably looking in, it's so clear that she is suffering and has been, and certainly it's so clear to her husband, and he's sort of always saying, yes, but you were alone in a way that wasn't okay. And for her, there's no qualifying it. It was her childhood. She's not, you know, she's not in a constant state of evaluating it or comparing it to anything else. It was her childhood. And so I don't think she would trade it.
She had nothing to compare it to. It was just how she grew up.
Yeah.
Right. The scene, Lily, where you learn about your mother's diagnosis in the hospital room is just monumentally devastating to watch. It just destroyed me. And you play it brilliantly. Does playing something like that, that's so, you know, I'm actually almost starting to tear up just thinking about it. Did playing it require a lot of emotional prep for everyone?
You know, no, in the sense that
You're professionals, so you're already ready.
you're ready. And I think, and you know, you feel safe. I felt safe in that company. And I don't think any of us knew what was going to happen that day. I think we just kind of, so much of what happens in that scene is the surprise of not only getting the information, but then having to process the information so quickly with all of these witnesses who know you so intimately, and with someone who is kind of the great love of her life, meaning her mother. And I felt, you know, I think both, and Kathy too, they kept saying, you know, on everyone's coverage, and they would say, we have it, but we just wanted to keep going. I think there's a tirelessness about the three of us, really, in the way that we were doing it, that we would have kept going. And yeah, Jess has just a tremendous stamina. And I think we really felt buoyed by one another. And but there wasn't much planning. It kind of just happened.
Yeah. And again, the film deals with this Broadway grande dame's dementia diagnosis and how it impacts her impending star turn in the Cherry Orchard. Have you been touched by Alzheimer's or dementia with anyone in your own life? And please forgive me if that's too personal.
No, nothing is too personal. We've talked about Norma Rae.
That's right. We're old cows now.
It has, but I had something that was actually, it ended up being someone that I'm very close to had a temporary and very sudden disease that ended up being treatable, but it came on very suddenly and affected his brain in a way that suddenly I was looking into this person's eyes, someone I know incredibly intimately, and everything was different. Everything was different. The way he was processing information, the way he was looking at me, it seemed the color of his eyes had changed overnight. And so it was such a remarkable experience, and it ended up better than this does, because it ended up being something that was treatable. But losing someone in that way, and I've experienced loss in my life in all sorts of ways, but there is something about the idea of not being able to cut through whatever else is going on and connect to someone who you know is in cellularly connected to you. And so to look into someone's eyes and not be able to break through what's happening is so incredibly devastating and life shattering. And for someone like the character, where it's also her livelihood, it's her source of joy, and
Everything she is.
Everything she is,
yeah,
is her ability to hold on to, you know, it's funny. I always think after, because I come from the theater, and so I've done so many plays, and I feel like when people don't know what to say to you after seeing something, they say, how do you memorize all those lines? But it really is, you know, a remarkable thing, and everyone has such a different way of doing it. But you do take it for granted, I think, when you're a theater creature in a certain way, and you figure out how to crack it for yourself. And it's not that it's a tremendous amount of work. And I think there's a kind of athleticism to that memorization for actors, who any actors, but certainly actors in the theater, where you really don't want to be calling for line, and there's no going again. And you're culpable in a way that is so particular because it's happening in the moment. With you know, with no opportunity to cut. So the loss of that here, you know, it just hits in every way. It hits, it's her, all of her relationships, of course. But then what it is that she does, and what she loves, and what has kept her heart beating.
And it is,
and the connection to the person that she has lost, her husband, my father. So losing all of that at once is, there really are no words to describe.
Absolutely. No, and you know, I've always thought of Alzheimer's dementia as just being the cruelest imaginable fate, because the person is still alive, but the person, as you know them, is no longer there. And
that no amount of will, I think that's the thing, you know, you just think, but look at me, look at me, look at me.
Right.
It has to be
something's
there.
Something's going to click. I know, and
something's going to cut through. And for the person suffering to know that that's coming, and that there may be a time when their own will can't cut through, is yes, cruel
and outrageously frustrating. Just to get back on you for a second, Lily, you've done a lot of stage yourself, including with The Merchant of Venice, that got you a Tony nomination back in the day. And you never stopped working. You've had a whole career on American Horror Story, which seems like a wonderful, great regular showcase for you to take your acting muscles out for a stroll. But do you prefer, is there any medium you prefer one over the other? Film, stage, TV?
You know, there are things that I love so much about all of them, but my first love is the theater, because it was my first love, and because I learned how to act doing plays. I think that's, and I played really some of the greatest parts ever written, you know, Shakespeare and Ibsen and Chekhov, which is in the movie, these plays, and these women, when you have a chance to say those words, and it changes you. And so I actually feel I love doing film and television, but I carry all of those women with me, the ones that I played on stage. I feel that they're just always with me. And I do sometimes feel like I'm missing a piece of my soul. I've been away from the theater for a really long time. And this was as close to going back to the theater on film I think I could have experienced. And Michael is such a, I met Michael because we were workshopping a play that he wanted to produce for years. We were in a sort of dialogue about that, and for whatever reason, schedule and this and that, it never came to fruition. But I think for all of us to just feel like we were all holding our tenderness and sort of devotion to the theater with us on set while we were telling the story. It was very tangible.
Correct me if I'm wrong, your mother had a similar trajectory, did she not, in terms of doing a lot of theater early on and then much more film, TV later?
She did, but she always joked, and I don't know that it was such a joke, but she would say, she was doing theater, but then she was losing out to sort of movie stars or bigger names in the theater. Like some of the parts she really wanted to get, it would be between her and so, and they had done more film and television. So it was actually losing those parts on stage that motivated her to cross the country, because this is when like everything was out here in LA. And start working here so that she could go back to the theater and play the parts she wanted to play, which feels very backwards, but it's definitely still, that rings true. That still rings true.
I totally get that. You seem like you really love doing American Horror Story, though, in terms of TV. And your sister, Mary Eunice, was just phenomenal. I still have nightmares about that. You just, it just seems like having that anthology, it just seems like an amazing showcase for a performer.
And it's such a, I feel like Ryan was just kind of the first one to do that, where he was saying to a bunch of actors, come into this world, you can come and go, you'll get to play all of these different parts. But there's this, it was like a repertory theater company in a way. And so for an actor, it checks a lot of boxes. It was really, I loved all the parts I got to play on that show.
Did you grow up always wanting to be an actress, or did you have any other different aspirations earlier on?
I wanted to be a ballerina, and I loved writing. I think my love of dance was a sort of indirect path towards acting. I think it was my way of kind of staking my claim, because my parents did what they did. And I think that was my way of saying, I want to be an artist, and I want to get on the stage and express myself. So I think I'll be a dancer, but then I realized I really just wanted to be an actor.
And I have a lot of actor friends who attended Northwestern, like you. Such an amazing school.
It's an amazing school. It's such a special school to have an undergrad program like that. I don't know that there's another school like it.
Absolutely. I think we're actually going to leave things there. The Great Lillian Hall streams over Max. Lily Rabe, best of luck to you this Emmy season, and thanks for joining us today. Thanks for joining us at Gold Derby today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.